Alright. What's up, fuckers?
There it is. Man,
welcome back to the Pillar of Thriller.
Welcome. This is Romo.
And Justin.
Here we go.
Alright. Oh, yo, real quick. Because I don't know why I just looked at you and I just saw, but we're both wearing,
yeah.
We're both wearing Just Kicking It, as you know. B-Jack. This is his gear. I got his hoodie, man. I got his. We talked about this in the last one, but I got his fucking. These look at the shoelaces.
You can see it on the video. Check out the video. This is a dope concept. The whole brand, the Just Be Kicking It thing is wild. Like, go follow his page, Instagram, and everything. But we're repping his gear. So we got the gear out here. As always, we're drinking Dos Equis. Still looking at that sponsorship. One of my Dos Equis, Justin, put in the fridge, so it is a ice slushy, so I will not be checking that one.
Freezer.
Yeah, sorry, in the freezer, and it's ice
He's
slushy.
like 5 deep, so don't worry.
Just a lot. So also, shout out to Adam Oakley, got an EP coming out soon, so look out for that. And then our banner, you'll see in the video, hopefully you saw in our Halloween episode also. Justin, take it away. Who we got?
Go see game. Go see. He's dope. Dude's dope. Good dude. Sorry.
If you were curious, he's dope. His Instagram handle @boring_Millie. Dude makes crazy banners. If you need advertising, marketing, anything, if you want to do a baby gender reveal, wedding reveal, anything, you need photographs, get you a banner from him.
Great pricing, man. Great pricing.
Great pricing. Can't beat that.
And last but not least, Hunt Junkies. Go follow them. As you know, they make the best reviews. They don't bullshit, so they'll tell you whether a hunt's good or not. Believe it or not, there are still some hunts still open at this time. So
into November, you'll see a lot stay open through November.
So well, we'll see how that goes. Like I said, look at their huntjunkies.com. Hopefully next year we'll have a hunt for you, so to come through. So
this is episode 4. To recap,
it's 4. Yeah, wow.
Episode 4 to recap, we got episode 1, just our intro. Episode 2
with Oak. We had our special guest Oakley. It was our Halloween special. We talked about Scream, and then last week we talked about It and It Too. This week we'll be touching on
in general remakes,
originals versus remakes, and special announcement. Episode 5, we're gonna have another special guest.
And so we'll be talking about Hereditary with Heather Loves Horror on Instagram.
Go follow her page. I think it's Heather_loves_horror.
Her page is fire. For any horror fans out there, or anyone who just wants to see some dope content out there, like, it is fire. Like, I was just sitting there, Justin and I, we were thinking about trying to get her on. We were just looking at her Instagram page and looking at how much she knows about horror and knows about everything she's posting. So we talked with her. We're really excited. We'll have her on the next episode.
We're excited to have her, man. She's super kind enough to be on our show, which is awesome. And can't thank her enough. I mean, and we'll be on hers. So we'll be on her podcast. So be on the lookout for that as well. We're gonna shout her out though. Let's shout out her Guts. Her podcast is called Guts, and she's also in a short film that was actually filmed during the pandemic. So that's pretty dope.
We'll be talking about that with her a lot next episode. So go check it out. But next episode we'll really be able to give you, and obviously when we post the video and everything, we'll link her stuff. So everyone can go support her and see her stuff and check it out. For all those that love horror and want to see just all these people like us that are content creators and have a love and share a passion for horror and film in general. Just seeing people put their footprint in the sand when it comes to this stuff. So, like we're trying to do with this podcast, is really just.
And we appreciate the views, the listens, man. Thank you guys so much. I know we're just starting out. We're hoping to keep building this following and just to build this podcast up, man. I'm just can't thank you guys enough. thank all my friends and my family, and thank you guys, man. This is something we love. I mean, we love film, we love horror, and like the first thing I was actually, when we talked about it, because we waited months and months and months before we actually started this podcast. I gotta say, the first episode I was real nervous about, because I wasn't sure if we were gonna have like 20 or 30 minutes to talk about this kind of stuff. Luckily, we both love to fucking talk, so
yeah, non-stop.
Yeah,
we gotta stop sometimes. Some people just say, "Shut the hell up."
Yeah, seriously, like, you know what I mean. So, and like, we love this, and like, this is something I look forward to doing this every week.
Oh yeah.
So, man, if y'all, thanks for the love, thanks for watching, thanks for listening, and
yeah, every listen is like, if it's one listen through, if it's one watch through the video, like, we appreciate it no matter what.
But as you know, we're gonna go ahead and get this one started by chugging our Dos Equis. We got cans this time, so
yeah. I don't know what. So what did we? Is this a lager especial? Is this what we've been drinking?
Yeah, but this one's in a can. I guess it's the only
Summer of Dos. That's cool. Summer of 2.
I'm excited. So we'll chug this and then get our emphasis.
Make sure this isn't my one that's a slushy.
Okay. Yeah.
I literally have one that's a slushy, so I don't know if that chugging would have worked, but all right.
Here we
cheers.
Go. Cheers, bro.
Dos Equis.
Oh, that hurts. Fuck.
Yeah, dang.
Oh, I can't.
That was miserable. Absolutely miserable.
I didn't finish that.
You did?
I pushed out.
Jesus.
That was hurting my throat.
Jesus, man, what do you think? I didn't either.
Yeah, I was.
All right, let's finish this. Jeez, sorry, they just came out of the freezer. These are cold, but they're fantastic. So I'm savoring it. Dos Equis shout out. All right, here we go. That burns so much. It burns so good. A different burn than the Carolina Reaper and the Ghost Pepper. A different burn. Not great. The beer fantastic, but the burn not great.
That's what happens when you chug. You gotta be able to savor this stuff.
We should have shotgunned these like we thought. We didn't shotgun. Maybe we'll do that next episode.
We're gonna shotgun this episode because now that you said it, we gotta do it.
We're gonna have to. Wait for mine to fucking melt.
Yeah, mine's gonna. You already start. You gotta do a new can, bro.
There it is.
Yeah.
I'll get a new can. Sorry, had to burp. Just had to.
Yeah.
All right, now that we got that out of the way.
Yeah.
I guess we can get into what we're going to talk about this week. Like Justin was saying, we're going to talk about the originals versus remakes of certain films. Our last few episodes, we've kind of been trying to focus a little more on actually just one. I say one film, but really, like, when I say one film, I mean it being one film. Or, like, it being one topic we covered.
Yeah.
Scream being one topic we covered with Oakley.
We just figured this would be a really great topic because of last week. We talked about It versus It 2, which wasn't really a remake. It was more of a sequel, but it got me thinking about, like, originals versus remakes and our thoughts.
Well, especially because it was 27 years after the original It that had come out. So that's what got us thinking. We're like, you know, we kind of talked about it in our last episode, like how it was a remake and how cool it was that they did that. But we were like, hey, let's talk about remakes and originals a little more in this episode and have a little more free nature to us talking about original remakes and not be confined to one film. We will be talking about several films in this episode. We'll be talking about several things we enjoyed about those films. Some we may have alluded to in past episodes, but most of the stuff I have that I think we'll be talking about is stuff we haven't covered. So that's what I'm excited about really too, is being able to talk about films in a different light because we are trying to cover them, comparing the original to the remake in a lot of them.
Yeah. So let's get into it. I guess the first film I would like to talk about would have to be A Nightmare on Elm Street.
Yeah.
So, because I'm gonna be real.
The 2010 remake.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. So I'm gonna be real here because I don't watch remakes or sequels like very often. That's not really.
Why is that?
Well, because growing up, we grew up in the world of Spider-Man, right? Like with Tobey Maguire, 1, 2, and 3. Like, you know, Tobey Maguire.
The goat, by the way.
Did you know he's actually? You know he's gonna. You know, I think he signed on to be on the new.
I will believe I'll believe that when I see it. But I obviously joke all the time about Tobey Maguire being the best Spider-Man. Tom Holland's the man.
Yeah, he's my favorite.
We joke about it all the time.
Well, I'm just saying, like, no. So Tobey and Andrew Garfield both signed on like the new.
Yeah, I heard that. I want to see if they're actually going to do that, or if that's just a rumor floating around.
Right.
But you were saying you don't really.
Oh yeah, so like that kind of like so sequels have never been like I find that sequels are not as good as the first or like the original is what I find in most things. Like It. For example, we talked about that last week.
So did you expect the It that came out in 2017 to not live up to the original?
So, watching the first It, I was super young. Because that came out, you said 1990? I think I was in like 3rd or 4th grade when I watched.
It was Tim Curry that started.
Yeah, Tim Curry, the man.
Yeah.
And he's great in like a lot of things.
Tough to look into.
Rocky Horror, Annie. He's like, I mean, the dude's just, he's a great actor. So, but I, be honest, like I didn't compare those two because the first one was made for TV film. It wasn't a full feature, like it wasn't a feature film, and that's why I was really
long as crap.
Yeah, I wasn't. That's not something that I considered like a remake or a sequel, which is why I was really excited for the first It.
It's a fresh take on it.
And
even though it follows the same source material and everything, it's so much later. It's a fresh take.
Right. No, yeah, exactly. It's just new. And obviously the technology between 2015 and 1988, like two completely different like things. And that's one of the things, I mean, I'm going to get into in just a second, but the reasons why I don't like sequels or choose not to watch them or remakes is that I just find that they're just like not as good as the originals. And just in general, whether not just horror, I find that in most films. So,
so Nightmare on Elm Street then.
So yeah, that's what I mean. So like the technology, that's what I was going to get into. The technology in Nightmare on Elm Street from 2010 versus 78. You figure it's going to be a lot better. It's going to be like,
like
great.
How Freddy looks.
Yeah, and how he's going to sound and the effects that they can put on. And we talked about this in the episode with Oak.
Yeah.
But just the bedroom scene in itself, with his hands coming over the bed.
Right. The CGI versus practical aspect. And I'm actually looking up if, because there's the makeup artist in the Nightmare on Elm Street film, the 2010 one, actually went on record in an interview and was talking about the things that went wrong with Freddy's makeup. Because, I mean, when you do Freddy Krueger, that's such an iconic look. Like, you want to get that makeup right. You want to make what Freddy looked like in the 80s, I believe. You want to get that. You want to capture what Freddy looked like then. Because that's such an important look. Because if you have what he looks like as Freddy in 2010. Because that's what a lot of turned me off to the movie, is just the look of Freddy. It didn't look like...
He didn't look like Freddy.
It looked like a burn victim.
Yeah.
And I know Freddy is a burn victim, but it looked... Yeah. Freddy was a burn victim, and they added backstory in the 2010 on how it happened, and...
okay, so that's... I gotta say, that's one thing I fucking loved. You didn't know Jason's story in the... In 2009. Sorry, not Jason. Freddy. You didn't know Freddy Krueger's story in the original 1978. Oh, same with Jason too. You didn't really know his story.
You just knew he was, like in
you just know these in the 78 in Nightmare, and what year was the original Friday the 13th?
80? Don't quote me on that. I'm gonna look this up.
But those two things, you don't know their story. One of the things I really loved about like the 2010 remake of
1980.
Yeah. Oh yeah. But one of the things I loved about the 2009 remake of Friday the 13th and the 2010 remake of Nightmare on Elm Street was I got to know these characters. And that's one thing I love, because I love feeling invested in things. Because when you know a lot about somebody, that's when you become invested. That's when you become more like attached. Well, not saying that I wasn't attached in the original films, but because I knew this person's story, like I know more about you, which makes me feel better. Like not feel better, but it just makes me feel for you. Yeah.
You have some roots in there.
Yeah, that's one thing I really loved. But still, I can still say this in what's today, November 9th, 2020. I can still say wholeheartedly that I still don't like sequels or remakes as much as I like originals.
So, the Nightmare on Elm Street 2010, they went full-fledged. We're talking about how you enjoy backstory and a lot of things, and a lot of remakes and reimaginings end up being that to add backstory. I mean, look at Rob Zombie's Halloween. Did he need to add backstory to Michael Myers as like a kid that came from a broken hillbilly family? No, he didn't need to, but that's what Rob Zombie wanted to do with it. Nightmare on Elm Street. 2010, we fully jumped into Freddy's basically, he's a child predator, works around the school, and that's why the parents of the kids burned, they trapped him in that house, chasing him like a mob mentality, and then burn it down, and that's why he's a burn victim.
Come out but turns out that he actually wasn't even a child molester at all. Like he just which is why he's haunting these people in their dreams, who were kids at the time.
They try to make him a lot darker too. I mean, you kind of capture that with, you have the classic Elm Street girls, the ones doing jump rope and singing the 1, 2, Freddy's coming for you, that song. But like, you have it in a dark classroom with like the walls falling apart and like, you just fading to black. Like, it's a lot darker than, the Elm Street girls just playing jump rope out in front of a house. Like, they said, we're going to focus on atmosphere, we're going to focus on ambiance, we're going to make this shit darker. Also, why they tried to make Freddy look more like a burn victim coming back to kill people, because the finger knives are iconic. The finger knives are like absolutely amazing. His glove, and they, the makeup artist.
That's what makes Freddy Krueger Freddy Krueger.
Yeah, and the makeup artist also wanted, she had mentioned basically like, hey, we're gonna make him look less cartoonish, and
I didn't think he looked cartoonish at all in the original.
Well, that's and that may have been there. That just may have been what the director thought. But I mean, like, they said they went full burn victim, like try to make him look like that.
Yeah, and I get it. I mean, he did look like a burn victim, but when you're making, I think when you're, when you're doing a remake of something that iconic. Michael Myers, okay, so here's one thing I really appreciate about like all these Halloween movies, right? So you have the original, I actually think I got the, 78 is Halloween. 78 is not, maybe it is.
Nightmare on Elm Street? I'll look it up real quick.
Because I think, I know definitely Halloween 78, but I keep saying 78 on original.
Nightmare on Elm Street is 1984. I knew it was in the 80s because obviously the vibe is very 80s vibe.
I mean, even the original Halloween's kind of 80s vibe too. But like, one thing I appreciate about all the Halloween movies is Michael Myers' mask is a Michael Myers mask. Although they make their tweaks on him, he still looks almost like he looks like Michael Myers.
They tweaked it a lot in the sequels.
Right. But he looks like Michael Myers. When you're doing like a Freddy Krueger, like put those two pictures side by side. Those, they don't look, like it's
too, well, I'll counter that only in the way that I'm thinking Michael Myers as in Rob Zombie, they have a completely different mask.
He looks like Michael Myers, though.
Well, no, it's ripped all over the place. Like his mask. I mean,
I know what you're talking about. That kind of stitched up almost.
Yeah.
Looking. Yeah.
Now I know it's more in the second. In the second movie, we basically see Michael Myers' face for like half the movie because of how the mask is just destroyed.
Yeah.
But it was Rob Zombie's way of saying there's no way this mask should still be intact after all this shit that he goes through. So we're gonna make the mask look like this. But like the finger knives are obviously not going to change with Nightmare on Elm Street. What was wild about Friday the 13th, 2009 was in the first Friday the 13th, the original in 1980. Obviously, his mom's a killer. Jason's just a boy. The second movie, Friday the 13th, he never gets a hockey mask. He wears a sack on his head. And then...
I'm trying to think.
Well, he starts out with the sack on his head.
Yeah. I think he does end up with...
Yeah, he gets it halfway through with the character. I'm blanking on his name right now, but there's a character in the
barn. Was it the barn?
Well, the character in the film was like playing around near the lake and was joking around with brought a hockey mask as a joke, and was joking around, and then Jason ends up killing him and then taking the hockey mask and replacing that. But in the barn you're thinking of is in the remake. I'm talking about the original. I'm talking about we're talking a few movies it took to get his mask in the original movies, and then in 2009 all that happens in one. Mm-hmm. Like he has a sack on his head, and then he gets the mask all in that movie. In the beginning of
the 2009 movie was the backstory to Jason, which I really loved. Like I said, those two things I really enjoy is just like learning the stories of these people. You know what I do love though? I can say since we're talking about this is I love prequels to things.
Yeah.
Prequels are dope. Yo, I mean like they're just come on, Monsters University. You can't tell me you didn't love that.
I'm okay on that one.
Yeah, I mean, it's prequels are like when you learn about the characters that you love, because you don't know, Sully and
Jesus.
Yeah, I mean, I'm serious. You know what I mean?
Like prequels. Think like first Annabelle was not good in my opinion. Annabelle Creation's a prequel. Very good. I love that movie. On record saying I love that movie. It's fantastic. Annabelle Creation is so good. The Nun is a prequel.
To what?
The Nun is a prequel to everything. The Nun is the nun from The Conjuring Part 2.
Oh.
Yeah, it's the same nun. It's a backstory. It's a prequel backstory because it's all in the same universe.
Me and you in Boston we thought about going. We never went though. No. I still haven't seen it to this day.
I saw it on Prime, and then
it's on Prime.
No, I rented it, but then Paranormal Activity 3 is a prequel to the first two.
I didn't like the first one, so I didn't watch any of the other ones.
Yeah, well, and I just looked it up. So it is Jason doesn't even have his mask until part 3. So and then in the remake they have him have a sack on his head and he gets the mask in the remake. Jason's a lot more like violent. I mean, he's very violent through the whole series, but he's a lot more aggressive. He's like trapping people in 2009.
I love that.
He runs a lot more in 2009. He's like, they do a good job. I mean, they have some pretty wild kills in there, like burning the girl in her sleeping bag, like hanging her from a tree in the sleeping bag and burning her over a fire.
Oh, yeah.
That is a wild kill sequence from Jason. Mm-hmm. Like, I know he has a famous sleeping bag kill from Jason X, I believe, when it's in like a simulation, but like, that was a cool callback to that. But prequels, like, they do a great job of, like, if you like backstory, if you like wanting to know more about the characters, where, in my opinion, I don't want to know more about, only one I don't want to know more about is Michael Myers. I don't want to know any more about him. I don't need to.
Well, you kind of already, like, so, in the remake of Friday the 13th, the first 15 minutes was pretty much a prequel. Like, it was a short movie within a feature film.
It showed about showing what happened originally.
Yeah, with his mom and
So it's that's from part 1.
Right.
So that's from part 1, and so they have the first 15 minutes, and it's to be believed that he has been in the woods this whole time since then. So it ignores it's like it really only considers what happened in part 1.
Right.
Jason saw his mom get her head cut off, and Jason's been in the woods this whole time. Which is cool because that's kind of like how they did in part 2, because he's grown in part 2.
There's something about the woods, man. It's like, you ever notice that? I think
it's isolation.
Yeah, there was like there's a one movie I really liked. It was I think you recommended this to me.
Strangers?
Is it The Strangers?
The Strangers is in backwoods, like in a cabin, which is fire. The Strangers is terrifying.
No, it was in like, I think it was like in Norway or the Netherlands.
The Ritual.
That was a good movie.
The Ritual's dope.
That was a really good movie.
These guys go backpacking, and then because there's a lot of dread in that movie too, which adds to it adds to the movie so much.
Talk about like
feeling bad for going out there and doing
I wouldn't say like an iconic scene, but talk about like a good first scene, like him dying in
in The Ritual.
Yeah, like in him dying in the. Sorry, off topic, but still, this is a really good movie. But I was talking about the woods because the whole movie was pretty much spent in the forest. Mm-hmm. For those who haven't seen The Ritual. Mm-hmm.
It makes Friday the 13th, 2009 very special because obviously it's at a camp and it's at a lake, but like there's a lot of wood scenes.
Yeah.
And he's underground, like has his underground tunnels and stuff like that. But yes, I agree, like being stuck out in the woods and then the girl is trapped by Jason in the woods. How terrifying is that, being stuck out in the woods? And then the guys in The Ritual are going through they're going through that whole adventure in the woods and slowly being brought.
The irony in him being trapped at the end.
Yes.
Yes. Quick question. Mm-hmm. Who was that girl to him? Like, he didn't kill her. Why did he keep her underground for that long? Like, who was she?
Jason has kind of a infatuation for he's got the infatuation obviously with his mother. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, you think back to part 2. Think back to part 2 when the final girl he's chasing puts on Jason's mom's sweater and like talks to him, and he imagines her as his mother.
Mom, yeah.
So like that, it's a womanly figure. So I think that's my take on why I think Jason's keeping her trapped down there is to have that, because obviously he misses his mom. Jason misses his mom through the whole damn thing. His mom was trying to avenge his apparent death, and obviously the sequels and the remake do give story to that. But man, is Jason like a badass in that movie in 2009.
His kills and in this one, in the remake versus the original. Oh my god.
Yeah, the kills are insane. Like, there's a lot of like Jason's even out there. Like basically, also what I love about that movie too is you get introduced to a whole cast of characters, and like pretty early in the movie, like I want to say first 30 minutes, and Jason kills like pretty much all of them off, and then you get introduced to the cast. Like, that doesn't happen often. Like, it's not the same cast all the way through.
2009?
Yeah. He kills off a lot of people early in the movie. Before
Who?
I mean, a lot of the characters.
What?
Yeah.
Hold on. I'm trying to. I haven't seen this movie in a few months. I did watch it fairly recently, but hold on. I'm trying to think. The first. Who did he kill?
I mean, I'd have to go back and look.
It was on the road. Was it on the road?
I'd have to.
Where they were going on a motorcycle. Hold on. I'm trying to think.
I'd have to go back and look at this, but
I believe you. You're very knowledgeable, so but yeah.
No, it's a cool like way that they do it. It's a different take to me.
Yeah, because you don't see that often. Because you automatically think that the first people you see are the most important people, you know. I remember now, like that.
But like all the people he kills, like camping, like those aren't the people that are in the cabin that he ends up chasing throughout most of the movie.
Yeah.
Like, that's what I mean, is like he kills a lot of people off early. You got the dude that has his leg caught in the bear trap. You have the girl that was killed over the fire. Kills someone else just in the woods by slashing their face with his machete. Iconic, just standard. Kills two teens. I say teens, I'm not sure if they're actually teens in the film. While they're having sex, which is iconic for Friday the 13th.
Yeah.
If you're having sex around Jason, you're going to get killed. Or if you're having sex in the woods, you're probably going to get killed by Jason. That's just how it goes. And then, yeah, here it is. 6 weeks later, a group of party-anxious teenagers are heading to a house on the lake for a great time. So Jason kills all these people, and then we get introduced to a whole new cast of teenagers that are being tormented by Jason throughout the film.
Yeah.
But it's one of the main characters. It's his sister that's trapped underground. So that's a pretty cool thing. Also, is you got a little story that she was missing.
I remember now because he killed all those people except for her.
Yeah, he kept her.
He kept her. Yep. And the guy was searching for her, and that was the guy on the motorcycle. He was the guy on the bike, and that one guy really did not like him at all.
Yeah.
Yeah, fucker.
So really fucking good movie. I've seen a lot of.
I can say that's one of the remakes that I liked.
Yeah, it's done really well. I recommend it entirely. You may be scared of Jason in general, but Jason is obviously one of the top 3 in horror icons, and just that movie in general. I see a lot of people saying that's one of their favorite Friday the 13th movies. Obviously, the Friday the 13th movies get pretty out there as you go along. And then this one's kind of a back to basics, and they add some elements to Jason of him moving a little faster and trapping throughout the woods and stuff like that. And he's just violent. So a lot of cool stuff with that. That's one of my favorite remakes.
So, all right. Well, I gave my opinion on that, right? So, what about you? What do you think? What do you think of sequels and remakes, and what are your thoughts on it? Do you appreciate? I mean, I still, even though I don't like them as much, I still appreciate it. You know what I mean. But so, what about you?
So for me, for remakes, I don't like remakes that are made, and I call them money grabs. I toss around money grabs sometimes. Mm-hmm. I don't want a director or a studio to make a remake of an iconic horror film and do it shot by shot, essentially. Just because, hey, it's been 30 years since we had this movie. If we do it now, we'll hit new audiences. I want something kind of like how we see with the Evil Dead movies, the Evil Dead remake. The Evil Dead remake didn't have Ash in it, which Ash is the main character of the original Evil Dead.
2013, I think, right?
Yeah, so 2013, the remake happened, and God, is that movie balls to the wall just crazy. It's that's one where I'm yes, a remake there is perfect, because guess what? I was too young to originally have watched the original Evil Dead when it came out. I've went back and watched all them, and they get out there, but they're so good. There's a lot of dark humor in there too. But this latest Evil Dead is in 2013, 7 years ago, is freaky.
It's almost 8 years.
Yeah, so
Jesus,
good.
We're almost in 2021.
Yeah.
About to make it through 2020, guys. We're getting there. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's where I see a remake being necessary, remake being unnecessary to me. I don't even know if I'd say unnecessary. Rob Zombie's Halloween was because the studio wanted to capitalize on a Halloween remake. They gave it to Rob Zombie, which is an interesting director choice with his style of movies. And it obviously made money because it's Halloween stamped to it. Mm-hmm. And Rob Zombie has a following where people are going to watch it. And then the second movie he was able to do with what he wanted. But then you have unnecessary remakes. So Nightmare on Elm Street is an unnecessary remake to me. Yes, the shots aren't shot for shot the same, but they try to pull a lot of shots from the first movie. Things that they did really well in that movie are adding the micro sleep things. You're sitting in class, when we were kids, dozing off, barely falling asleep. The fact you didn't know if you were in a dream or not. Yeah. In this movie was fire to me. And then
it was really done well. That part there are things in movies, like I said, I appreciate it, in remakes or sequels that are really dope, that they think about that comes out and comes across really well.
Yeah.
But it doesn't make the production as a whole that great. You know what I mean? Yeah. So, but go ahead.
So remakes to me is like, I'm 50-50 on that answer, because I would never say, because then you have one remake you and I were talking about before we record this podcast, I was briefly mentioned, is the remake of The Thing that came out, not the most recent one, but the one with Kurt Russell is phenomenal. It's a remake of a very old film. Stephen King wrote The Thing, so that's another Stephen King movie, and that one's phenomenal, like, just really good. And then the remake was so much CGI, and they had a lot of practical stuff in there too, but it was covered by CGI also, so I didn't like the latest remake to The Thing. Texas Chainsaw Massacre has so many damn tunnels on which that series goes, but the 2003, I think it was 2003 remake of Texas Chainsaw Massacre, not the New Beginning one. New Beginning one was a prequel to the remake. They gave some backstory. I didn't think that one was necessary, because yes, like there's some cool backstory in there. But we've already seen what happens, so like, why do a prequel? Why don't you just build on the story after, in my opinion, what you had done was made a successful remake to a film from the damn 70s, which a film that iconic is tough to even touch. So I will never say remakes are off limits. I appreciate them having their own mold. Nightmare on Elm Street had good spots in it. They had good spots. Yep. Overall, as a film, I don't think it was even necessary. I don't think they even needed, like, to make one. If you're gonna make Freddy,
you think it was a money grab?
Yeah, 100%. I think it was a money grab, 100%. And I hesitate to even think that they would make another one in the future, because I know they were hoping to spawn more movies, Friday the 13th from that. Yeah. Kind of like what they're doing with Halloween. Now, Halloween's not a remake. 2018. Halloween 2018 is not a remake, obviously.
It's a continuation.
Yeah, it's a continuation from the first movie. It's a different timeline. Yeah. Where Nightmare on Elm Street was not a different timeline. Nightmare on Elm Street was a remake
from the second movie, right? Not the first, because Halloween 2 was a continuation from the first one.
Halloween 2018 ignores Halloween 2.
Completely?
Completely. Yeah. So in Halloween 2, Jamie Lee Curtis is discovered to be Michael Myers' sister. And in...
What?
Yeah, in Halloween 2. Jamie Lee Curtis is Michael Myers' sister.
Hold on. Yeah. I'm trying to remember this.
Yeah.
When?
They literally say it in the car. That's like the storyline from...
Oh my God, you're right.
Yeah, so they're brother and sister from that point on. In that storyline, or in that timeline, obviously Halloween 3 is its own movie. It does not have Michael Myers, so not in consideration here. Good movie, but not in consideration here. Mm-hmm. And then Halloween 2018 goes through the effort of adding a line in where they're talking about Laurie Strode, because they're talking about her granddaughter, and the kids are saying, "Oh, wasn't that his sister that he came back and chased?" And they're like, "No, that was some phony thing someone made up." So they say that in 2018, completely pull that back to make sure the audience knows this is ignoring the second film. Jamie Lee Curtis is not Michael Myers' sister, like they said in the second film. And that's what they go forward with. Which is crazy, because, like, I didn't know if I loved that in the second movie. They just wanted to give Michael a reason to be chasing Jamie Lee Curtis, because at first there wasn't really a reason. He was returning to his hometown and just going to kill people after escaping a mental hospital, which I thought...
that's still like, that could just be his thing. Going to kill people.
But that's what's scary to me, is I don't think Michael Myers ever needs backstory. Yeah. Now, I love Rob Zombie, but I don't think they needed to attach a hillbilly, rough upbringing, abusive father, whole story to him that they did in the Rob Zombie movies. It just felt cheap. Rob Zombie does what he does, and I appreciate his work in House of a Thousand Corpses and that whole series. So
such a good movie. Hannah hasn't seen it yet, but I want to show.
It sounded like you were snoring there. I was like,
no, it's so good. I love that movie. I mean, that thing. I remember watching that when I was young. I watched that by myself in my room. Like,
so you got that, and then you got what's next after that? Devil's Rejects is the second one of that film, and then 3 from Hell, which is awesome. He makes those in weird gaps too.
So Romo watches sequels and remakes.
I try to watch everything.
Much more, yeah. Like, but for me, like I said, I'm kind of turned off by him most of the time. I do every now and again just go. Yeah, like I watch it sometimes. It's rare, but
like you watched the Nightmare on Elm Street remake.
Yeah. So because it was, I mean, it's fucking Freddy Krueger.
Exactly, that's what we were so excited about. Like we were like, we're getting Freddy Krueger on the TV again, like on a theater screen. We get to see. We were pretty let down.
Yeah, but I mean, if you're gonna get a honest opinion and a real opinion, Romo's the guy for that. I mean, you're gonna get mine too, but
you have really good take on Friday the 13th though.
Yeah.
Like I really like when we talk about Friday the 13th 2009 because Jason's my favorite of the three of Jason, Myers, and Krueger. Jason's my favorite. You probably know that from my top 5.
Yeah.
Friday the 13th is the only one out of that series, out of those 3 series that made it into my top 5. But like it's just a different take on a film, right? Like you go back to the standard.
Cam sucks. Sorry.
You go back to the standard like Friday the 13th formula in 2009. What works? Nightmare on Elm Street, I don't think did that. I think Nightmare on Elm Street tried to be too different. I think it tried to be like they obviously didn't want Freddy to be goofy. They obviously didn't want Freddy to they wanted him to be super serious and dark, right?
Yeah, he talked so much, and it threw me off because he didn't talk like that in that first one.
He always had iconic one-liners.
Yeah,
but God, were the new ones cheesy?
It was weird.
They were cheesy,
and the voice that they had for him was, like I said, in It 2, CGI and like special effects could make or break you, man. And it just kind of broke me in It 2, and it broke me in Nightmare. So, so now what about sequels? What are your opinions on that?
Man, there's so much there for that. So like sequel wise, I mean, if you got just trying to think of like iconic horror movies with sequels. Oh man, I mean, so many movies did stuff differently. So like two that randomly pop into my head. Because you can have sequels that follow the same formula. Halloween 1 and Halloween 2. Yes, they added the sister element into it, but Halloween 2 is directly after Halloween 1, and most of the movie is in the hospital. So like, yeah, it's a different setting.
Directly, like literally, right after.
Yep. So different setting, of course, but you still have Dr. Loomis, you still have Jamie Lee Curtis, you still have as Laurie Strode, obviously. You have a cop that's involved in this as well. You still have teens and stuff doing Halloween party. So it's dope. It's like, that's so cool. But then you have, now we're talking about kind of like horror classics, obviously. Like my take on new movies may be completely different. Texas Chainsaw Massacre 1 was what it is. Fantastic, classic, just your standard.
1934?
What?
Was it 34?
34?
Was that the original one?
No, not that long ago. But basically the second one,
could have sworn it was that old.
1974.
74.
Yeah, so 70 years later. So like 74, and then the sequel that came out 12 years later, Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2, was a completely different vibe. A lot of dark horror, a lot of like...
It's very soon. 12 years? I mean, that's a long time, but this seems fairly soon.
No, like, I mean, 12 years to sit on that franchise, like, was kind of, it was long to me. And then you have the third one that comes out 4 years later after the sequel, 1986, which wasn't great. And then the fourth one, you have in 1995, which has Matthew McConaughey in it. And then, but like, the second one is a lot of dark humor. So it's weird. And then The Strangers, think about The Strangers. The Strangers 1 was like backwoods, slow burn, a lot of atmosphere. Strangers Pray at Night. The second one was like, they ramped it up to like 80s slasher with like neon lights, throwback music. chase scenes left and right, which is cool. I love The Strangers 1 and 2. Then we get into sequels where we're talking like Conjuring 1, which obviously is following one family. Conjuring 2, we have the same characters in Ed and Lorraine Warren, and obviously like they're following a different family, but like you got stories to build on. Same with Insidious. Now Insidious goes 2 builds on 1 very well. Kind of adds more backstory to the scary lady that's in the first Insidious. But there's so much, like, there's so many things, like Grudge 1 and 2, also good, in my opinion, like continuity in the story. But that's give me some continuity in story.
I love that.
And give me some callbacks to some characters.
That's what makes cool. Yeah. That's what makes. I think that's what makes sequels a lot better. Like I said, being invested, right? Continuity and characters, because that's what makes you feel right here. Yeah. Because you're invested in that guy.
Yeah. Give me some callbacks stuff. Like I always feel cool when the director is like, hey, I know you remember this from the first movie, so we're going to allude to it in the second movie and make sure you know that we care about what happened in the first movie. I don't like when a second movie is so disconnected from the first movie because they want to do something so different. So that's my take on it.
That's what kills me. Because when
on certain sequels?
Well, yeah, because when an original is so good, why would you want to disconnect from that, right? Yeah. Like, that worked. That's what I like. Okay, Halloween 2. I liked it. I liked it very good. I loved Halloween 2. But it was cohesive. Your continuity, it literally connects. It's the same night as the first one. Like it starts off like very. I'm cold as shit, but I'm like, it starts off on the same night in the same people. And that's why I like things like that. That's what makes sequels good to me, when it's continued and you build off of the same base, you have the same foundation. But when you make a sequel completely different and you're going in a whole different direction, it's almost like it's like CGI. It throws me off, man. It just does.
Yeah.
So
trying to think of some other sequels, like the Child's Play series, like the sequels obviously started becoming like straight to DVD type movies. But what I do appreciate is the director said, hey, we have something gold in Chucky, and we have Andy, that is the kid that had gotten Chucky in the first movie, and he shows up several times throughout the series. Then we had the new Child's Play. The original director of Child's Play wasn't happy with. Because he's still making movies in the series. He's like, why are you trying to remake something from back then and want me to sign off on it when I'm still building on the last movie I just made? So that's one thing. Obviously, the Friday the 13th series does a great job of, you don't get the only characters you really get, obviously, are Jason, his mom, and Tommy Jarvis, several throughout the movies. But man, like, that's just a true found formula that worked for Friday the 13th, and they did different. Like, when it got off track for me, like, yes, part 7 is ridiculous. That has
it's his favorite one,
telepathic one. It is, but I love it because it's ridiculous. Part 8 is in Manhattan, and I absolutely hate part 8. It makes no sense. It says it's in Manhattan. They're on a boat for 75% of the goddamn movie. It's
probably on the Hudson.
I think so. I think Jason literally climbs out of the Hudson and crawls up a chain on a boat. And that's how he gets there. And then he ends up in Manhattan and all that stuff. But God, to think that movies, like you said, if they add to the story, that's what makes sequels so good. Because do you need a sequel on an original that's so fucking good? You could sit there. You could sit on.
Can you think of an original that's that great? No sequel's ever been made, no remake?
That needs to be made?
No, that has not. There's nothing. An original that hasn't been touched since.
Original that hasn't been touched. God, that's tough, because, like...
It's a classic, right? Like, iconic.
Yeah, that's tough, because, like...
I can't think of it.
You know what it was for me until recently? It was Blair Witch Project, And then I just remembered there's
Did you call Blair Witch iconic? Is that iconic to you?
The original Blair Witch is so iconic. It is literally the birth of found footage films. Then there's Blair Witch 2, there's Blair Witch 3, and then the new one. But God, that's a tough question. I don't know about back in the day. I'd have to think on that.
Yeah.
To think back in the strong time of horror, like what is a one-off horror movie that just no one ever ended up touching? Because I don't know. I'd have to really go back and look.
Only one I think. Yeah, I don't know.
To me, and this is in my top 5, is Cabin in the Woods.
It's been remade, right?
No, Cabin in the Woods is its own movie. Is an entire remake. An entire original. It's fantastic. It is a ode to all of horror. It's amazing. I absolutely love Cabin in the Woods. That's the one that I'm like, obviously with how it ended, the ending of the movie was that the world ended. So there's no like, unless they make the movie again with
it would have to be a remake. Couldn't do a sequel to that.
Yeah, you'd have to do a remake. You can't, with how that ended, I don't think you could do it. I know you loved Lights Out. Now granted, that's from a short film that was touched.
Fucking love that movie.
Yeah, like that's one I don't think that I'm gonna
I wouldn't call that iconic.
No, it's not iconic. It's not. So that's what makes it. Oh God! It was The Shining, but they've touched The Shining. Doctor Sleep is a sequel to The Shining. What about Psycho? Psycho's got Bates Motel.
I wouldn't consider that a horror.
Psycho? Psycho's like the original slasher.
Yeah, I think that's like a thriller.
Are you thinking American Psycho?
So,
like
not
Christian Bale.
Okay.
The OG Psycho from like 1960.
That's also another thing I wanted to touch on real quick. Was Scream? We talked about that as a horror. I wouldn't really consider that a horror.
What's a slasher?
It's a thriller, right?
If it's a slasher, it falls under horror.
Yeah, I guess. But I mean, Michael Myers is a horror because he literally can't be killed.
But Madison and I just watched like
Scream, like they're just random characters.
Yeah, well, Madison and I just watched Halloween. That movie's not super scary if you've seen it several times.
Yeah.
Like, do you consider Alien a horror?
I think it's sci-fi. I think we talked about that with Oak too, right? Because like I didn't. That's why I didn't watch any of those. Is because I thought it was sci-fi.
Yeah, no, it's the first movie is very atmospheric horror, like not knowing what lurking in a dark corner. Like that's what's cool about that. Yeah. Like I mean, what I do appreciate about horror nowadays is you're getting a lot of original ideas. Think about Jordan Peele giving us some original ideas with Get Out. He's given us and Us fantastic 2 movies. And he's remaking Candyman. And it's not even a direct remake. It's going to be a reimagining, which is awesome. Because I think he's in
Twilight Zone.
He's going to knock it out of the fucking
I would say Twilight Zone would probably be one that probably didn't need, like, that would have been one of the things... Until they remade it, was going to be one of the things that wasn't touched.
Yeah. Hellraiser has sequels.
Yeah.
Obviously, The Ring has sequels. Saw has sequels. The Descent has sequels. Evil Dead. I'm just listing off some. Saying The Witch is by itself. But the Witch hasn't had enough time. I know your take on The Witch. We may talk about The Witch on another episode with one of our buddies who's a big fan of it. I'm a big fan of it. I'm a big fan of the director.
I think I need to rewatch it because I think for me...
But that one hasn't sat. Like, that's definitely not... It could be iconic to some people, but it hasn't sat. It's not gonna... It doesn't make the impact.
It's done in Old English. I think it's old... I don't know if it's Old English or... But, like, it's... the language in that is different from like what we're used to, at least, you know what I mean? So,
oh my God, I can't believe I didn't talk about this with the remakes, but it's not a remake. It's not really even a reimagining of the. It's taking a concept and putting it in 2020. Is The Invisible Man.
Oh, okay.
Because I mean the Invisible Man movies is from so long ago.
Yep.
But it's a much different film. But man, is it good. It's a thriller. It's definitely a thriller. It's not a horror.
Yeah.
But man, is that one so good. And I'm sitting here looking up original ideas of movies. And I say original ideas as being like a movie that came out and obviously had ended up having no sequels and ended up having no remakes to it. And there's not too many I can sit here thinking of. Like, Deep Rising came out in 1998. That was a creature feature people were a big fan of. But the ones we've mentioned obviously they're so big and they've been talked about so much that there was other opportunities for revenue in those. So
yeah, and people, I mean, and unfortunately, that's like one of the things that people do is that they make these sequels and they make remakes, mainly because they're, you know, like you said, it's a cash grab, right?
Yeah. So if you had to pick a movie right now that could either be remade or make a sequel to it, what would it be? Either remake or have a sequel to it right now. And I know that's a tough question.
A remake or a sequel?
Or a sequel. Because there's so much, like, oh man, that's so tough for me.
Let me, hold on.
As you're thinking about that, I want to also note that there is another Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie on the horizon, so look out for that.
Okay, so...
And that's such a... I know I just spawned that on you. I didn't even...
I personally would love... Just me. Because of my selfish reasons, would love a sequel to Hereditary.
God, would that be crazy? How
yeah.
That? I don't even know how they can.
Yeah, I'd love a sequel to that. Also, not saying that this is the best movie, but I enjoy these two movies. But I would love another sequel to Jeepers Creepers.
Yeah,
I would
and obviously for the reasons of the director and his problems that he has.
Yeah.
But those, I mean, the first film's really good.
Yep.
First one's really good. The sequel actually isn't bad either.
I like both of them.
Yeah, I like the first two movies. And so that'd be an interesting one. But obviously, a lot of people aren't going to like that because of circumstances. I want another Friday the 13th movie. I think it's been so. I know. So there's fan films out there.
It's like 10 years ago.
Yeah, I want another one. I mean,
yeah,
I think.
Do you want a sequel to the 2009, or do you want a remake?
I don't know. Just give me kind of what, like.
I know you love Jason, though, so that's why.
Yeah, exactly. It can be a sequel, but like, because it's so. The concept of Friday the 13th is so basic. It doesn't have to be anything convoluted. You don't have to draw anything back. You can just make a sequel with Jason and go from there.
Yeah.
But God, like, I don't know. There's so many movies. I kind of want a sequel to Get Out in some way. I don't know how they do it, but that would be cool to me because how it ended. I think it's great. But I think obviously you have the horror movies that go back to the character getting stuck in the cycle of. I think Jordan Peele could have a lot of fun with making a sequel to that.
He's so smart. He would make something work.
He would make it work, and I trust somebody like that.
Yeah, the dude's very intelligent. Like, he's so good at what he does.
That's what I would think in those. And I love Texas Chainsaw Massacre movies. So I know there's one coming out. I just want another one because Leatherface is awesome.
You're not too far behind, man. What's coming out soon?
I know. Well, we say come out soon. It's literally they just started promoting. I'm looking for it. Literally all we have is a website right now. So don't have a ton. But I think it's gonna be awesome.
Yeah.
So we'll see. And anything like I'm just looking out for my directors. Like I love Ari Aster that did Hereditary and Midsommar.
I love James Wan. You know, you're a big James Wan fan.
I love him too. So Conjuring 3 coming out. I love Robert Eggers, who did The Witch, who did The Lighthouse. I love anything he makes. He has a movie coming out. I can't remember the name of it.
I didn't think The Lighthouse was horror until the end.
It's not. It's. I wouldn't even say it's horror in general, man. I think I agree with you. Probably the fact that it would be a thriller in general.
Lighthouse.
The Lighthouse. Yeah.
Yeah, the ending was definitely a horror.
I mean, yeah, it has every thriller shares horror aspects. Shutter Island is a thriller but shares horror aspects.
Great movie.
Fantastic movie.
DiCaprio.
That would be awesome.
A sequel to that?
No, actually, I take that back. I draw back my comment there because Leo did such a fantastic job in that movie. Don't touch it.
He's so fucking good.
Don't touch it. Don't touch it.
I love that movie.
And he's so selective with picking roles, so you know he was really invested in that.
That came out like almost the same time as Inception. And Inception was dope too.
Yep.
So.
Fantastic films. I love anytime they're big time actors in thrillers and horrors. Like we'll talk about it more with Heather next week with Hereditary, but like Toni Collette's performance, and that is, I don't even know.
She should have been fucking nominated.
Yeah, that's one. So you say like.
I just rewatched. I'm gonna rewatch it again. Yeah. But I just rewatched it last week, and I'm continuously impressed with her performance. Like, God, she's so awesome.
Good. So the last.
But horror doesn't get enough love for like some kind of Oscar any kind of Oscar nods.
No. So the thing I want to wrap this up with is if you said a sequel. So you probably wouldn't want a sequel to a movie like Hereditary because it's so good originally.
Yeah, well, but I trust the director, man. He's really good. I mean...
Yeah, and I know we're getting out there with calling for sequels for certain movies, but we're just trying to exercise our thoughts on this.
I would, like, for my selfish reasons, I would love to see one. Like, I would love to see a sequel to Hereditary.
Just because we trust the director.
Just because I trust the director. And I know his body of work. Midsummer was great. Although that thing just fucked me up kind of in the head. Yeah. It was more psychological than anything else. But, I mean, you could see that the tones were very, very similar. Because I was just rewatching Hereditary, a couple days ago. But the tones in those two movies are very similar to each other. But I would love one. Even if it's not as good, because like I said, just because it's, I mean, we have shit in our top 5 that aren't necessarily well done.
Yeah, exactly. So like you said, like it falls down to the director. Like, man, do I trust any director? I would want Ari Aster to give me another original idea, like Hereditary, like Midsummer. Give me another original idea of a movie.
But you love the sequels to Conjuring.
To The Conjuring? I love The Conjuring sequels. Really well done by James Wan. I mean, obviously there's only one actual sequel, and then there's the spin-off of Annabelle. The Nun, I don't love The Nun. And then there's more stuff coming out, like The Crooked Man will be its own thing, I believe, is what they're talking about. But with that being said, I think like I trust the directors. One director to look out for is Lee Wanell, who worked with James Wan on Saw. He's done Upgrade, which is really good. It's a thriller, but he directed The Invisible Man. So I absolutely love where he's going, and he's got a big hand in some horror movies. I think that will come out in the next few years. So
well, that's good, man.
Yeah. Well,
I guess
that's all I got.
Yeah, man. But I would guess that wraps us up for tonight.
Yeah.
Like I said, be on the lookout for next week. I'm real excited to have Heather on our show. And she invited us to her show, and I'm excited to do that as well, man. I'm really excited to work with her. She seems like a really cool person, very genuine, and
loves horror.
Yeah, you guys will love her too. So, like always, like, share, comment. Let us know what you guys want us to talk about. If you have any comments and suggestions.
Subscribe, views, all that. Share it with your friends. Listen. We appreciate everything. Thanks for tuning in to our episode about remakes, reimagining, sequels, all the above. Us off topic as usual going off. We like to just exercise the mind with some of this stuff. Dos Equis, I just finally finished my third Dos Equis.
I have to pee, so I've been holding my pee.
He's been shaking over here. You'll see it on video how much anxious energy this man has.
But I appreciate you guys. We love you, man. Thanks again. Thanks for the support. We want to continue to keep doing this. So thanks, guys.
Thank you.